The moment I saw my cabin door swing open on the security feed, I almost laughed because I knew I had set the perfect trap. For weeks, every creak, every flicker of the lights, every so-called technical issue was intentional, all carefully planned and monitored to catch Victoria Jenkins, the self-proclaimed queen of Pine Lake Estates HOA, who thought she could push my grandfather's old cabin out because it didn't fit her polished vision, but she had no idea she was walking right into a legal drama I was crafting starring her. Watching her strut in with heels clicking on the floors my grandfather built after WWE felt like poetic justice. This isn't just about revenge. It started with loss, legacy, and small-town politics. 6 months after my grandfather Robert passed, at 92, leaving me his weathered lakeside cabin on 3 acres, I returned expecting nostalgia, but found a changed Pine Lake, shiny lawns, too many rules, and Victoria ruling it all. But I wasn't just a sentimental heir clinging to the past. I was ready to rewrite the future, and she'd already taken the bait. Right in the middle of all this was Victoria Jenkins, a former Chicago developer who had bulldozed her way into the presidency of the Pine Lake Estates HOA. By day 3, she showed up in a sleek black Range Rover, dressed to impress in linen and gold, sizing up my grandfather's old cabin like it was a crime scene. No introductions, just a cold declaration that I was already in violation of about a dozen HOA rules. Then she slapped down a binder so thick it looked like it could stop a bullet. I told her my name was James Anderson and that I had no idea my grandfather had ever joined the HOA. She gave me this condescending smile, like she was about to explain advanced math to a toddler, and said Pine Lake Estates had absorbed all the lakefront properties last year, as if I'd missed some crucial memo. She insisted my grandfather had been notified, but honestly, I could tell she didn't believe for a second that I'd fight back. That night, I called my cousin Sarah, a sharp property attorney. She was blunt. James, unless your grandfather signed off, they can't touch your property. Go check the county records. So first thing the next morning, I spent hours digging through dusty county records. That's when I found out my grandfather's land had a special historical exemption status, meaning none of this should even apply. Victoria hadn't just lied, she was banking on me never doing my homework. But the biggest shock came next. The HOA's fancy new clubhouse down at Marina was actually built partially on my family's land. Someone clearly hoped an old man wouldn't notice. Armed with this evidence, I showed up at the next HOA meeting.
Victoria treated it like her coronation, standing tall in front of the room, calling me out and expecting me to fold. Instead, I calmly laid the real records out on the table and let the silence settle. Slowly, other neighbors began sharing their
stories, fines for letting wildflowers grow, threats over paint colors, rumors about Victoria's secret ties to developers snapping up distressed homes. The more I listened, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about rules, it was about power and control. Victoria didn't back down. Suddenly, my cabin became ground zero for her intimidation tactics. Violation notices stuck on my door every morning. My truck almost towed, my boat left untied, water shut off for maintenance. But I documented every single thing, every scrap of harassment. Meanwhile, I transformed the cabin from a simple home into a fortress of subtle traps. My grandfather had taught me all its secrets, the way the lights flickered, which floors creaked, the quirks of the plumbing and heating. I installed a new security system, set up cameras, rigged the hot water to run cold, programmed the lights to shut off after exactly 47 seconds, made the toilet run endlessly unless you jiggled the handle just right, and hooked the thermostat to my phone so I could heat or freeze the place at random. Sarah told me, just don't make it dangerous. Nothing here will hurt anyone, unless you count bruised egos. Then I went on the offensive. I started attending council meetings regularly, joined the local historical society, and hosted barbecues where neighbors opened up with old letters, maps, complaints, and proof of Victoria's backdoor deals. The Patels had records showing Victoria's company tried to buy their place after fining them into submission. Harold Mackenzie, a longtime neighbor, showed me old property lines, and I realized just how much of the HOA's pride and joy was actually sitting on my family's land. Word got back that Victoria was snooping around town trying to dig up dirt on me, so I gave her exactly what she wanted. I packed my bags one Monday morning, told Mrs. Patel I'd be gone for 2 weeks, left the lights on timers, and made sure the cabin looked occupied. The truth was, I was holed up at Harold's guest house, just 2 miles away, glued to my laptop watching the security feeds. And sure enough, on day 2, there they were, Victoria and Walter Simmons, the treasurer, sneaking up to my door. They'd hired a locksmith, and Walter accidentally let that slip. As soon as they stepped inside, my setup kicked in. Flickering lights, breaker trips, heating that cycled on and off, ice-cold water in the shower, running toilets, fridge alarms, locked doors, and a cell signal jammer that killed their phones. They were trapped just long enough to get good and nervous. Nothing harmful, just enough to rattle them. And wouldn't you know it, as they stumbled out embarrassed and rumpled, Harold happened to be driving by towing his fishing boat. He snapped a photo of the Queen of Pine Lake and her sidekick scrambling for their dignity, then drove on like nothing happened. The next evening, the town council meeting was packed. Victoria tried to paint my cabin as a hazard and ranted about community standards, but I waited for her to finish, then calmly stood and laid out the real story. My property was never part of the HOA. Then I played the footage. Victoria and Walter breaking in, snooping around, panicking, and getting locked inside. Officer Peterson from the sheriff's office was there and had seen enough. Victoria sputtered, calling the video manipulated and blaming me, but the council had the documents, the video, and soon, proof of her undeclared land interests. The old survey even showed the HOA had built its clubhouse right over my family's property line all along. The room absolutely exploded. People who'd been silent for years suddenly had plenty to say. Walter Simmons looked like he wanted the floor to open and swallow him whole. Victoria tried desperately to hold on to control, but the damage was done. It was over for her. The council didn't hesitate. They voted unanimously to launch a full audit of the HOA, ordered a brand new property survey, and Officer Peterson personally escorted Victoria and Walter out to give their statements. In the weeks that followed, the audit peeled back layers of deception, selective fines, money funneled secretly to Lakeview properties, underhanded deals designed to force longtime residents out. Victoria lost her house, was put on probation, and was banned from holding any HOA or real estate positions anywhere in the county. Walter's feigned ignorance didn't fool a soul. As for me, I kept Grandpa's cabin just as he left it. The creaks, the quirks, the stubborn plumbing and all. The local historical society designated it a protected landmark, so no one can ever touch it. The HOA was forced to lease the land under their marina back to my family's trust, which now uses the funds for lake preservation projects. The Patels got their garden back. Harold Mackenzie, the longtime neighbor who stood by me, became the new HOA president. He rewrote the rules, and Pine Lake finally started feeling like a real community again. Not just a gated display meant to impress outsiders. Some evenings I sit on the dock, watching the sun dip behind the trees, thinking about that summer. The summer Victoria Jenkins learned the hard way that some legacies aren't meant to be bullied or erased. Sometimes the best traps aren't ones you build to catch others, but those that reveal their true selves. Maybe that's what justice looks like. Or maybe it's just small-town life at its wildest. But one thing's for sure. Grandpa would have loved this outcome. He always said, patience and preparation. That's how you outlast the bullies. Guess he was right. Now, before you go, I want to toss the question over to you. Was I wrong for fighting back like this? Where's the line between standing your ground and going too far? When personal property rights clash with HOA politics, what would you do? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's hear your stories. Is this community justice or just petty revenge?